He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. To this, Duryodhana told to Vidura, you are ultimately the son of a maid servant. You have been born from someone who is abominable. You just keep your mouth shut. You have no intelligence of your own. You will give me advice? How dare you have the audacity to give me advice? Get lost. Yesham na vidya na tapo na danam jnanam na shilam na guno na dharma te mrityu loke nanubhara bhutaha manushya rupena mrigascharanti. Is described the one who doesn't have knowledge, no vidya, no tapo, no austerity, no danam, no charity, no jnanam, no shilam, no scriptural understanding, no shilam, no character, no guno, no good qualities, no dharma, no spiritual practice. Te mrityu loke nanu bhara bhuta. On this earth, they are actually a great burden. Manushya rupena mrigascharanti. These are actually animals walking around in a human form with 2 legs. Dvipada Pashu. This is given in Niti Shastra by Chanakya Pandit. So, it is stated in the Chanakya Niti that if you give advice to someone who doesn't value it and who is foolish and dull-headed, this advice will just increase his anger. Upadesho hi murkhanam prachopayana shantaye payappanam bhujanganam kevala vishavardhanam. It is said that advice to fools, it actually doesn't pacify them. Prachopayana shantaye. It in fact actually builds their anger. It is like payappana bhujjanam. It is like when you feed leaf and milk to a vicious snake, its poison just increases. So Duryodhana was also given advice, but he didn't take it. History is repeating itself. We see even Ravana was given advice, even Hiranyakashipu was given advice, but did they take it? So it is not that Krishna doesn't arrange for advice for everyone. Everyone is able to receive advice. It actually depends on us. Is our receiving antennas wide open? Are we actually hearing the messages in our life that Krishna is giving through his devotees, through the scriptures, through Shri Guru? Krishna doesn't come personally and give you advice. Many a times when we ask devotees that, Prabhu, can you please come for the program? So the person, he says, Arey, jab Bhagwan bulayenge to khud chale aayenge. So Bhagwan, he will not stand on your door and invite you with the red carpet. He will send his message through his devotees, through his books, through his Guru. So sometimes it so happens that we are looking for advice, we are looking for something, and we just turn on a lecture of Srila Prabhupada, or we just open the Srimad Bhagavatam, and what we are looking for is actually addressed. So it is said that Krishna takes personal care of each and every living entity in this world. Goloke eva nivasati akhilatma bhuto Govinda Madi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. He lives in Goloka, but he is personally present with every living being as the Paramatma, the localized form of the Lord. But when we think that we have figured it all out, when we think that we don't need any advice from anyone, so that is where begins the journey of destruction. So one can contemplate on all the places where guidance was taken and great examples were formed. So the Lord gives a very classic example. He comes in two forms. It is stated he comes as Buddha and he comes as Vyasadeva. Now both are Shaktivesh avatars. Buddha came up with a philosophy which we reject today, the Shunyavad philosophy. And Vyasadeva, on the other end, he came up with the Bhagavatam, which we worship every day. So what is the fundamental difference? Because both are forms of the Lord. So actually, Krishna is trying to give us some perspective. It is said that Buddha preferred to get enlightened all by himself, by just sitting under a tree. Whereas Vyasadeva fulfilled the instruction of his superior, Narada. Dhruva Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Nalakuber, and Manigriv, Valmiki, they all came in contact with the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of Narada. There are countless examples of personalities getting to know the Supreme Personality of Godhead because of following the advice of people like Narada. Whereas on the other end, if someone is independent and without any advice, that person falls down. Classic example, Shaubari Muni. Tannama Rupa Charita Charitadi Sukritta Nano Smritya Kramena Vasana Manasi Niyujya Thishtan Vrajeta Tanuragi Jananugami Kalam Nayet Akhila Iti Upadesha Saram. Upadeshamrita, the 8th verse. Here, the essence of all advice is to be under the shelter and take advice from those who are superiors and Vaishnavas. Now, who these Vaishnavas are is a whole other discussion. But what the Lord wants us to do is listen to our superiors. So actually, in the first chapter, if you see, of the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord doesn't speak a verse. So many people, they actually think that what is the use of the first chapter? Because Bhagavan doesn't speak anything. So the first chapter should actually be removed from the Bhagavad Gita. This is what people think. But actually, the first chapter is very crucial and very important. Why is it important? Because in the first chapter, Arjuna thinks that he has figured it out. Senayor Ubhayor Madhye Ratham Sthapayape Achyuta. Hey Achyuta, please take my chariot where I can see both the camps. And there Arjuna asks Krishna that where his enemies are. So Krishna, he points in both directions. He points to the side of the Pandavas and to the Kauravas. Why? Because the desire to find an enemy is the enemy. Being stuck in dualities like such and thinking that this is favorable or this is unfavorable, this is my team and that is not my team. This is actually the mentality of Dhritarashtra. Mamaka Pandavaschaiva kim akurvata Sanjaya. So in the first chapter, Arjuna thinks that he has figured it out. But only when he falls onto the feet of Krishna and surrenders unto him. Karpanya dosha pahatasvabhava prichhami tvam dharma sammuda chetah yachreyasyam nishtitam bruhi tanme shishyasteham shadimam tvam prapannam. When Arjuna expresses the weakness of his heart, Hridaya Daurbalya, he says to Krishna, I don't know what to do, I am confused. You please guide me. So when Arjuna asks that, then Shri Bhagavan Vacha. So that is the point from where Lord Krishna begins to speak in the Bhagavad Gita. So the point is that we need to take shelter. So when the soldiers, they come to arrest Krishna, Krishna is smiling. And the soldiers, they cannot bind him, of course. He is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when they come to bind him, he shows his universal form. And they all are stunned. And they go back and they tell to Duryodhana what happened. And Duryodhana, he becomes even more angry. And he says, my gods, they don't have any brains. They don't understand this person, this Krishna, he is a magician. And Bhishma Dev, he looks at Duryodhana and he says that, oh Duryodhana, don't you realize he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Please wake up. And Duryodhana, he says, I don't care even if he is God. Even if he is the source of everything. Even if he is the basis of everything, I will still fight him. Vinasha Kale Viprita Buddhi. So what can you do now? It is said that you can take the horse to the pond, but drink it must. You cannot drink for the horse. So Krishna returns to the palace of Virata and he narrates the whole thing to Yudhishthir Maharaj. And he says, Duryodhana is planning for a battle. So now you all must begin to prepare. We cannot avoid. Now this will be Dharma Yuddha. So Duryodhana is preparing in his kingdom and here the Pandavas are preparing. And Balaram, amidst this, when he gets to know about the great war that is about to happen, he says, I cannot fight, O Krishna. I cannot participate in all this. My emotions is torn between my students, Bhima and Duryodhana. I cannot be unfair to either ends. So I am going on Tirtha Yatra, on a pilgrimage tour. And in fact, this is the same tour where he kills the Romaharshan Rishi with a blade of grass. So Duryodhana, he approaches Bhishma Dev and he says, just like amongst the birds, Garuda is the best. Just like amongst the mountains, Meru is the best. Amongst the Devatas, Indra is the best. Amongst the Yakshas, Kubera is the best. Certainly, O Pitama, amongst the Kshatriyas, you are the best. I request you to please fight to your fullest. I make you my commander-in-chief. O Pitama, you have been assisting, you have been protecting, you have been guiding us for so long. Now is the time where we need your greatest help. So please have some pity on us. Please be kind and kindly fight on our end. So to this, Bhishma Dev, he said, certainly, because you as a Kshatriya approached me, I cannot deny you. I will definitely take your side and I shall fight on 3 conditions. The first condition, I will destroy 10,000 soldiers every day from the opposite army. But I cannot kill the Pandavas because the Pandavas are like my Panchapran. They are actually my body. So I cannot kill those Pandavas. They are very dear to me. What is the second condition? That I will not fight if this Karna is in the battlefield. Because we have so many Sahasrarathis, so many great warriors. I don't like this Karna. He's not even an Ardharathi. To this Karna, he flared up. And he said, Bhishma Dev, you don't worry. I have anyways taken a vow that I will enter the battlefield only when you are dead. I don't want to fight when you are around. And anyways, once you're dead, I will enter the battlefield, which is anyways in a few days. and Karna. What is the third condition? Bhishmadev says, I cannot fight when Shikhandi is around. If Shikhandi is placed in front of me, I will drop my weapons. So Duryodhana asked him that why won't you fight? Shikhandi is a great warrior. He is a man. He has been trained. He is an excellent Kshatriya. He knows the art of warfare. Why won't you fight him, Bhishmadev? So this Bhishmadev narrates a history which we actually covered to some extent in the first day. That Amba, she went to the north and she performs tapasya to please Lord Shiva. And then finally Lord Shiva is pleased. And she says to Lord Shiva that I want to kill this Bhishmadev. You please give me the boon of taking my revenge. I want to kill this person. To which Lord Shiva, he blesses her and he says that in your next life, I will give you the boon of killing Bhishmadev. So Amba, she creates a fire and she enters it and she gives up her life. In her next life, she is born in the kingdom of Drupada. Now, interestingly, Drupada he gets a daughter. So both of them, they had actually prayed to Lord Shiva to receive a son. And Lord Shiva said that you would receive a son. But Lord Shiva, he said a very interesting thing. He said that you will certainly receive a child who will be a male eventually. So this eventually, Lord Shiva said after a pause. So we need to understand that when the daughter was born, the parents were confused, but because they had great faith in the words of Lord Shiva, they said, no. Lord Shiva said that it will be a boy, that means it will be a boy. We will treat our daughter like a boy. So they informed the entire kingdom that actually a son is born, although it was a daughter. So a son is born, they started dressing her like a son. They gave her a name of a son, Shikhandi. So the girl was actually trained in the art of warfare, military, and she became an expert. And then there came a time where she attained the age for getting married. And Drupada was getting very concerned. On one end, Lord Shiva said that this will be a boy, but she is still a girl, and now is the time to get married. So the wife advises Drupad Maharaj that please marry Shikhandi to a girl. So Drupada, he says, but actually Shikhandi is a girl. So shouldn't she be married to a man? This is very confusing. Although, of course, in modern day, this is very common. So Drupada is so confused. He had never seen something like this. How can you marry a girl to a girl? So the wife, she said, no, we have to follow what Lord Shiva said. So you get her married, because we have in any ways informed the kingdom that this is a boy. So Drupada Maharaj, he puts an advertisement in Shadi.com, and King Hiranyavarman is very pleased and he gives his daughter. So now Shikhandi gets married, and eventually the daughter of Hiranyavarman gets to know that this is actually a female. And she tells to her father that this is actually, she's a lady. What? You got me married to a lady? So Hiranyavarman, he was boiling, he raged with anger, and he began marching towards the kingdom of Panchal. So Drupad Maharaj, he was getting so afraid, and he began questioning his wife that, you recommended this, marrying daughter to daughter. What is this? Now see, I have to face the consequences. To which the wife says, see, I just gave you suggestion, now you implement it, so it is your fault. So amongst this heated discussion, in this atmosphere of trouble, Shikhandi is very distressed. She thinks that all this is actually happening because of me. All these people are taking so much of trouble because of me. And in such a depressed condition, she ran from her kingdom and she came to the forest. In the forest, she came in contact with a yaksha named Sthuna. And her condition was, she was just crying profusely. She was so depressed. So Sthuna was automatically drawn. He was so curious to know what had happened. Soon he inquires that what happened to you, O Devi? To which Shikhandi, she speaks her history. And she talks about all the details. And she says that, oh Yaksha, I know that you all are capable of giving benedictions. You kindly bless me. To which Sthuna was already so compassionate and was so moved by Shikhandi's narration that he said, certainly we Yakshas are capable of giving benedictions. You don't worry, Shikhandi. I give you the blessing and the benediction that you will be a man. So Shikhandi said, how? So Sthuna said, I am a Purusha, I am a man. I will give you my gender and you give me your female gender. So this is now a very common practice. But back then was the first transgender surgery. So Sthuna exchanges gender with Shikhandi. And Shikhandi now becomes a man and Sthuna becomes a female. So Hiranyavarman, he reaches the kingdom of Drupada and he says, what the hell is going on here? I married my daughter to another girl. To which Drupad Maharaj, he's trying to pacify Hiranyavarman. And Shikhandi returns and everybody is like, there is no problem, look, he's a man. So Hiranyavarman, he sends one of his best people to go and check Shikhandi. And it turns out Shikhandi is a full-fledged man. So now everyone is pacified. Drupad Maharaj pacifies Hiranyavarman and Hiranyavarman apologizes. And he says, actually my daughter told, So they must have had a fight. And like this. So Shikhandi, after this incident, she was now a man. So he returns back to the forest where Sthuna is. And at that time it is said that Yaksha Kubera appears in the kingdom of Drupada. And he is looking for his personal servant, Sthuna. And Sthuna is a woman in the forest. So he is arrived and he's waiting for his personal assistant and he's calling, oh Sthuna, where are you? Where are you? I am not being welcomed. So Sthuna, who was residing in the forest, he didn't want to come in front of his master in his this form. So Kubera is now getting angry. And when Sthuna doesn't show up, Kubera pronounces a curse. And before he pronounces the curse, Sthuna actually comes to the spot and he says, oh my dear Lord, Here, I am your servant. And Kubera, he says, what is this form of yours? So Stoons, he repeats the entire narration. But before that, Kubera is so disgusted by seeing Stoon in such form. He thinks that he has actually gone to enjoy in this form. So he curses Stoon that if you enjoy this form of a woman, remain a woman. And then Stoon, he said, oh my lord, you didn't hear the entire story. And he narrates the entire story to then Kubera. He's like, oh, what is all this nonsense? Anyways, I cannot take the curse back. I've already spoken the curse. But I can reduce the effect. So you will remain a woman till the time Shikhandi dies. After that, you can receive your male form. So Shikhandi, she, or we can say he, returns to the forest to meet Thun, and he has actually come to return the favor, return the gender. To which Thun says, no, now it's not possible. I'm cursed to remain in this form. So it's okay. This is the will of the Lord. You remain in this form. So this history has been narrated by Bhishma Dev, and he says, that is why if Shikhandi comes in the battlefield, I will place my weapons down. So Duryodhana, he understands. Oh, all right. So Vyasadeva, who has explained the battle of Kurukshetra in such a great detail, if we go into the specifics, we may not be able to keep time. So we will respect the detailed nature of Vyasadev's Mahabharat and we'll jump a few chapters in. So now begins the battle of Kurukshetra, which lasted 18 days. Horses are running, elephants are running. The scene was such that if you actually looked up in the air, you would see every second someone's head being thrown up, someone's arm being thrown up, someone's leg being thrown up. There was bloodshed everywhere. There was provoking. There were war cries. Come on! There were war cries. Shields and swords were thrown all over. People were dying in the millions, as you all can see. So we have reached to the 9th day of the battle, 50%. Everyone is fighting head to head, toe to toe, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. And Vyasadeva describes Bhishmadev is so ferocious. And on the side of the Pandavas, Arjuna is so ferocious. It is said in what detail, in such great detail, how they used to fight that you couldn't even see which arm would reach to the quiver and pull out an arrow and stretch and string the arrow to the bow and shoot it. It was happening so fast. And wherever Bhishmadev passed in the battlefield, hundreds and thousands would die. He was so expert, he was so skilled, ferocious like a lion. So in the middle of the battlefield, Bhishmadev tells to Duryodhana, there is no one in the entire creation who can stand against my weapons except Arjuna. I am getting so much bliss seeing Arjuna fight so ferociously. To which Duryodhana tells to Bhishmadev that you are not here to observe how Arjuna is fighting. You are fighting from my side. Why are you being so lenient? So Bhishmadev, he says, what can I do, Duryodhana? Whenever I go closer to Arjuna, I see that Kapi, Hanuman, sitting on his chariot flag, and he is roaring. It is described that Hanuman was actually seated on top of Arjuna's chariot. And when I see Hanuman roaring, when I see Bhima roaring, and when I see Arjuna roaring with his arrows, and in the center, when I see Lord Krishna, my senses are captivated, and fear is struck in my heart. Duryodhana, what can I do? So, those who have read the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita, you all know why Hanuman is seated on top of the chariot. And it is described, it was not an image, it was an actual form of Hanuman. So he was seated there and he was inspiring the Pandavas. So we all know Hanuman came in contact with Bhimsen, and that is how he was benedicted that he will take part in the Mahabharata. But Hanuman doesn't fight. So now Duryodhana is very upset. He says to Bhishma Dev that you are from my side. You should fight. And like this, he's nitpicking Bhishma Dev. So Bhishma Dev now, he is doubling his spirits and he starts fighting like a lion. He takes arrows and strings them all the way to the length of his ear and begins shooting them one after another, one after another. It is like a cloud of arrows. And Krishna and Arjuna, they have to now shield these arrows. So Bhishma Dev, he's stringing those arrows and he's like, no, now I will show you. Arjuna, you wait, now I will show you. And he is looking at Duryodhana and he says, you don't trust me, see what I do. And he begins shooting, double the spirits. And every time it is said, Arjuna picks up a bow, Bhishma Dev, he breaks that with his arrows. So Arjuna, who's already Sabyasachi, who's so strong and who's so swift, he has been turned slow. Bhishma Dev, he shoots arrows and those arrows pierce the body of Krishna. To which Srila Prabhupada writes a beautiful purport in the 9th chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. So these wounds, these arrows, they create wounds in the body of Krishna. And it is said, those arrows struck by Bhishma Dev in the body of Krishna were like offering flowers to the lotus feet of the Lord. It is said that those devotees in Dasaras serve the Lord with flowers, and those in the Viryaras, the mellow of chivalry, they serve the Lord with arrows. There is no difference. What a devotee offers at the feet of the Lord is what Bhishma Dev was offering to the chest of the Lord. So Krishna is very happy. He is very pleased. It is said in the Ramayana that when Lord Ram had defeated most of the soldiers and it was time for Ravana, Lord Ram shoots an arrow to the lotus feet of Ravana. Because Ravana is here, he is a Brahmana. So that arrow, when Lord Ram shoots, that arrow becomes flowers and they fall at the feet of Ravana. So the Lord is actually asking permission from Ravana that, oh Ravana, can I kill you? To which Ravana says, yes, my Lord, now you can kill me. So Lord Ram, he places an arrow on his bow and he's deciding where to shoot this arrow. He aims it at the chest of Ravana, but he knows that if he sends the arrow to the chest of Ravana, in the heart of Ravana is Sita Devi. And in the heart of Sita Devi is Lord Ram. And in the heart of Lord Ram is all the jivas in the entire creation. So if he shoots an arrow to the heart of Ravana, that arrow will eventually pierce Sita Devi. And that arrow which has pierced Sita Devi will then eventually pierce Lord Ram. And then the arrow which has pierced Lord Ram will pierce the entire creation, and the whole creation would be destroyed. This is Lord Ram. Maryada Purushottam. So then Lord Ram is thinking, where should I shoot the arrow? So then he aims it to the Nabhi Sthal, the belly button of Ravana. And there he shoots. And there the Amrit comes and then Ravana dies. So here Bhishmadev is shooting and the arrows are piercing Krishna. So Prabhupada says there is no difference between a devotee offering flowers and Bhishmadev offering arrows to Krishna. Krishna enjoys this Viryaras. And Bhishmadev is now charging at Arjuna, and Arjuna is getting bogged down. Arjuna looks at Krishna and he tells, I think that day has come where you will be alive to see your friend die. This is how Bhishmadev was shooting arrows. It's said that there were clouds of arrows that were being shot. Arrows in such numbers that they could block the sunlight. So many arrows. So Bhishmadev was shooting so many arrows. And Arjuna, at one point, when Bhishmadev shot an arrow, Arjuna fell off the chariot. And Duryodhan in the corner, he's having so much fun. He's saying, yeah, come on. This is how you do it. One more, Bhishmadev. And Bhishmadev, one after another, is stringing arrows and shooting towards Arjuna. And while he's doing so, he's thinking in his heart that, oh Krishna, you have taken a promise that you're not going to fight in this war. Now look at your devotee. Now look how your devotee breaks your promise. To protect Arjuna, you will have to pick up weapons. Krishna says that I will not fight. I will not pick up any weapons in the war. To which Bhishmadev said, yeah, Krishna, we will see. We will see whether your promise is important or your devotee is important. We will see, Krishna. Bhakta Vatsalyata is your Shiromani. You are the crown as far as mercy and compassion is concerned. Yatra dharma suto rajan gada pani vrikodara Krishna stri gandivas chapam suhrit Krishna tatho vipat. So here Srimad Bhagavatam calls Arjuna as Krishna. How? Yatra dharma suto rajan Yudhishthir Maharaj gada pani vrikodara Bhimsen Krishna stri gandivas chapam. When did Krishna pick up the Gandiva? But it is said that actually Krishna didn't pick up the Gandiva. But because Arjuna follows every instruction of Krishna and he picks up the gun, when he picks up the Gandiva, it is as good as Krishna picking up the Gandiva. So that is why Krishna Stri Gandivas Chapam. So this is the relation between Krishna and Arjuna. Their names are always mutually described. Krishna is known as Arjun Sakha. Arjun is known as Krishna Sakha. It is described Tribhuvana Kamanam Tamalavaranam Ravikara Gauravaram Dadhane Vapuralaka Kula Vrita Nanabjam Vijaya Sakhera Tirastume Nathane. So this is described in the Bhishma Stuti. Here we are giving emphasis to the word Vijaya Sakhe. That Krishna is described as you are the friend of Vijaya. Who is Vijaya? Arjuna. So Krishna is being described through Arjuna. This is their relationship. So Bhishma Dev, he said, now I'm going to throw a cloud of arrows and I want to show to the world how much you love your devotees. Saratya Parshada Sevana Sakya Dautya Virasana Nugamanastava Rav Pranama Snigdeshu Pandushu Jagat Pranatim Cha Vishnu Bhaktim Karoti Nirupatish Charana Ravinde. Can you mute all our mics, please? Thank you. So it is said, Saratya. Who is Krishna? Saratya Parshada. He is an associate. Sevana, servant. Sakhya, friend. Dautya, messenger. Virasana, watchman. It is said that at night when the Pandavas would sleep in their camp, that time Krishna would stand outside as a guard with a sword in his hand and he would stay awake the whole night. Nugamanastava Rav Pranama. Krishna used to give obeisances. He used to bow down to each and every Pandava. Why? Snigdeshu Pandushu. Because he had so much affection for them. Although, who is Krishna? Jagat Pranatim Cha Vishnu. The one to whom the entire world bows down to. So when Parikshit Maharaj, when he heard this spoken by Shukadeva Goswami, it is said that in his heart there was an explosion of bhakti because of this incident. So this is how much the Supreme Personality of Godhead loves his devotees. There is a story of a temple in Kumbakonam. The deity is very similar to Ranganath. So it is said that there was a devotee who was not from the Brahman caste, and he wanted to take darshan of the Lord. And the Brahmanas in the temple, they were so strict, they didn't allow him. They said, no, you don't belong to a Brahman caste, so you cannot enter the temple. So the devotee who was upset, he thought of it as the will of the Lord, and he walked out. And when the pujaris, when they went into the altar, they saw that the deity was rotating. And the pujaris, they were confused, they were perplexed, they were trying to figure out, why is our Lord rotating like this? Why is the deity doing this? And then they went outside and they saw that this devotee who was not allowed inside the temple was circumambulating the temple. And the deity wanted to face that devotee. So he was rotating as the devotee was circumambulating the temple. So this is how much Krishna loves his devotees. So this is what Bhishma Dev wants to show. So why Bhishma Dev didn't take the sides of the Pandavas? Because pure devotees only do the things which increase the pleasure according to the desire of the heart of the Lord. Bhishma Dev knew that he can very well take sides with the Pandavas and that would give pleasure to the Lord. But what would give greater pleasure to the Lord? If he goes to the opposite end and fights the Lord in Viryaras by showering arrows. That gives Krishna greater pleasure. So wherever Krishna's pleasure is, that is where we all are. Even if that means getting out of our comfort zone and being misunderstood forever, so be it. So there is a classic example in Ramayana, Bharata, who was also misunderstood. Atha Pumbish Dvija Shreshta Varnashrama Vibhagasha Swanushtithasya Dharmasya Samsiddhir Haritoshanam. This is the essence of bhakti. What pleases Krishna is what pleases me. So we have to make some amount of sacrifice. Even if that means we have to go through a calamity. Now one may ask, by quoting Nectar of Devotion, Anukulena Krishnanu, that bhakti must be favorable to the devotee. Agreed, bhakti must be favorable. But what is favorable? Favorable is wherever there is pleasure of Krishna. That is favorable. So many a times it is said, many a times people say that Bhishmadev ही उन्होंने कौरव के साइड से उन्होंने फाइट किया था. क्यों? क्योंकि उन्होंने दुर्योधन का नमक खाया था, इसीलिए. This is a very abominable thought. This is a very downtrodden, down market, TRP oriented commentary. Bhishmadev is a Mahajan. Wherever Krishna's satisfaction is, that is where these Mahajans are. Bali Maharaj. So Bhishmadev is saying, I am ready to wound you, O Krishna, if that is what you want. And now Bhishmadev is about to witness a historic moment. It is said Krishna was boiling. Vyasadeva writes, Krishna's eyes go red. One can imagine how would have Nrsimhadev appeared. Bhukandam varanandam paravara viratam dampa damporu dampam dim 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 dahamapi dahamai jampa jampaishcha jampai tulyas tulyas tu tulyas dhuma dhuma dhumakaihi kumkumankai kumankai etatte purna yuktam hara hara haraha patumam nrsimha. It is described in the Shodasha Baha Nrsimha Stotram Ashtakam. Sorry. These are the sounds created by Nrsimhadev when he appears. So that original personality who is in the form of who is in the form of Sri Krishna. So now he is boiling up. Krishna jumps off his chariot and he picks up a chariot wheel with both his hands. It is described, Vyasadeva says, his hands above his head. And he starts running towards Bhishmadev, his eyes spitting fire, and Arjuna was still on the ground. Everyone in the battlefield stopped, as if we pressed the pause button. They all dropped their weapons, and everyone was witnessing Krishna running with the chariot wheel to Bhishmadev. Many people said, finally the day has come where we may have to see the death of Bhishmadev. They shouldn't have done this. They shouldn't have agitated Krishna. Now that he has picked up the weapon, we all will see destruction is evident. So Bhishmadev sees this form of Krishna. Krishna's hair is flowing in the wind. His face, Prabhupada says, is ashened by the dust from the hoofs of the horse. Sweat drops like beads decorate his forehead, his pitambari dhoti, and his uttarani, the angavastra. It has fallen off. And yet he doesn't care. The chariot wheel, it is said, was looking as effulgent as the Sudarshan Chakra, the wheel of the time factor. So Arjuna, he is screaming to Krishna that, oh Krishna, please do not do this. And Bhishmadev is standing there with so much of happiness. His lips are quivering, not in fear, in happiness. There are tears in his eyes, not of sorrow, but of ecstasy. Look, my dear Lord, Bhishmadev is saying, the entire world is witnessing. You promised that you are not going to touch the weapons. But as soon as I touch someone very dear to you, to hell with your promise, you are ready to break your own promise for that devotee. All glories to you, my Lord. So Arjuna catches the thigh of Krishna, and Krishna walks 10 steps, and Arjuna is dragged. So Krishna says to Bhishma Dev that it is all your fault, Bhishma. You were assisting the king. You should have stopped all this. To which Bhishma Dev tells to the Lord that, oh my dear Lord, now that you have realized I am all yours, please kill me. It will be my supreme fortune to have the death from your hands. Please, my Lord, you are right here. I am the culprit. Please kill me. But Arjuna stops him. Arjuna tells to Krishna that, oh my dear Lord, you are doing all this because I am not fighting properly. So I promise you, with my hand on the heads of all my children, that I will fight with all my strength. You will never see me fall off the chariot again. You will never see Bhishma Dev trying to tear open my military arrangement again. I promise you, Krishna. So Krishna puts down the chariot wheel and he is gasping heavily. He's breathing heavily. And Bhishma Dev is over there. He's looking at Krishna and he's like, oh Mukunda, giver of liberation, please liberate me. So Krishna, Arjuna stops Krishna, to which Krishna holds the hand of Arjuna and they went back to the chariot. And this is the time when the sun set and Bhishma Dev's soldiers, they blew the conch, announcing the end of the day. So Yudhishthir Maharaj, he was very upset. It's very interesting, you know. Arjuna, it is said, before the battle, Arjuna lamented. But after the battle, Yudhishthir Maharaj was lamenting. Why was Yudhishthir Maharaj lamenting? Because there were so many deaths. Almost 64 crore soldiers had already been killed. And he was slapping his head. And he was saying, I am responsible for this war. It was me who could have prevented it, but I did not. To which Arjuna says, no, you shouldn't worry. This is a Dharma Yuddha. Yudhishthir Maharaj says, no, Krishna, I want to stop this battle. This is too much. So Krishna, he tells, yeah, you can stop this battle. And there is only one way you can do this, by killing Bhishma Dev. The quicker you kill Bhishma Dev, the quicker the battle ends. At the same time, in the opposite party, Duryodhana in the camp of Bhishma Dev, he is scolding Bhishma Dev. What are you doing? Krishna ran towards you with a chariot wheel and you are standing there doing nothing? What is all this? You are not fighting, you know. You are simply acting like you're fighting. But you are actually fighting against me. You show your face to the Pandavas, but you are fighting from their side against me. You have to promise me that you will kill the Pandavas. You are not equipoised to Bhishma Dev. I find you biased. So Bhishma Dev, having the Kshatriya blood, he says, no, I promise you that I will kill the Pandavas tomorrow. Duryodhana says, no, I need a promise. To which Bhishma Dev places 5 arrows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And he says, you know, I will use these arrows tomorrow to kill all the Pandavas, one for each of these Pandavas. So Duryodhana, he is very happy. He says, oh Bhishma Dev, please give me those arrows. I don't trust you, oh Bhishma Dev. I promise you I will give you these arrows in the morning. Krishna gets to know about this. So he tells to Arjuna, oh Arjuna, remember you have a boon from Duryodhana. Duryodhana said that he will offer you anything that you ask for. Go get those 5 arrows. So Arjuna goes and he meets Duryodhana. So Kshatriyas have a very interesting way of living. That in the morning they would fight against each other, tooth for tooth, and in the evening, after the end of the battle, they would party together. Even the opposite end of the army, all of them would party together. So this is Kshatriya culture. This is the Vedic culture. So Arjuna walks into the camp of Duryodhana and he asks, "Oh, Bhrata, you remember the time when you gave me that boon? That when you gave me that promise that anything I ask for, you will give me." So Duryodhana, he said, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, that is true. You ask for anything. No, Anuj, Arjuna, you ask for anything, I promise you I will give it to you." So Arjuna, he says, "Oh, Duryodhana, please give me those 5 arrows." And Duryodhan very reluctantly, he hands him the 5 arrows and he's smiling. Both Duryodhan and Bhishma Dev, they are smiling and they are looking at each other. And Duryodhan, he asks this question to Bhishma Dev that how did Krishna get to know? So Bhishma Dev, he says, "See, I told you, he is Bhagavan. You can't hide anything from him. He is seated in your own heart, in everyone's heart as super soul. How can we hide anything?" So after this, it is said, Yudhishthir Maharaj uh, gets into the tent of Bhishma Dev. And Bhishma Dev is very happy to see all the Pandavas with Krishna. And Bhishma Dev asks, "Oh Yudhishthir Maharaj, what brings you here? What brings you to my tent?" So Yudhishthir Maharaj says, "Oh Bhishma Dev, I am very disgusted with this battlefield. I wish that this entire battlefield ends as soon as possible. But the only way to end this battlefield, to end this battle, is only if you give the permission to defeat you." So Bhishma Dev, he said, "Yes, that is true. I can only be defeated when I put my weapons down." So Yudhishthir Maharaj says, "Oh Bhishma Dev, can you instruct us? What are the conditions on which you would put your weapons down?" So Bhishma Dev, he lists 8 conditions. He says, "I will put my weapons down on these 8 conditions." What are those conditions? If the shield of the opposite party, if their shield is broken, I put my weapons down. I give them time to take another shield. If their weapons, if their weapon falls from their hand, I put my weapons down. I give them time. When they become cowards and they run away from the battlefield, I put my weapons down. Fourth, when they surrender and they seek my shelter, I put my weapons down. Fifth, when someone has a feminine name, I put my weapons down. If someone is the only son of their mother, I put my weapons down. If the person is handicapped in any way, I put my weapons down. And the last reason, if the person standing in front of me is a female, I put my weapons down. So Yudhishthir Maharaj, he asks Bhishma Dev that which out of these 8 reasons should we employ tomorrow to kill you, O Bhishma Dev? This is Vedic culture. Prabhupada in the 13th chapter writes a very beautiful purport. He says, simplicity means that one is so transparent that they are ready to speak the truth even to their enemies. So Bhishma Dev, after all, being one of the great Mahajans, he tells to Yudhishthir Maharaj that Shikhandi is actually a female. Oh Arjuna, you keep Shikhandi in front of you, and when you do so, I will put my weapons down. And when I do so, from the behind of Shikhandi's back, you begin shooting arrows, and history will follow. And Bhishmadev blesses the Pandavas. May you be victorious tomorrow. May you successfully destroy and defeat me. The sun rises, the day begins, and Arjuna starts fighting brilliantly with even great vigor than all the previous 9 days. Duryodhana asks Bhishmadev that, oh Pitama, please do something now. And Bhishmadev tells Duryodhana, don't worry, I'm going to fight so brilliantly today. Either I am going to die or the Pandavas are going to die. And we all know who is going to die. So at this point in the battlefield, there is an aerial voice, Akashvani. All the great rishis, along with the 7 Vasus. If you all remember from the first session, Bhishmadev was actually the 8th Vasu. So his 7 Vasus, his brothers, they appear along with the great rishis, and they're stationed in the sky, and they announce to Bhishmadev, "Oh Bhishmadev, your time span on the earth has ended. Whatever you had to achieve, whatever you had to sacrifice, whatever example you had to lay down, you have done it. You have led by your glorious example. You can leave now. You can leave your body whenever you decide. Please, now it is your call." So Bhishmadev is showered by flowers from the heavenly planets. And it is said that only 2 personalities could see and hear this incident. One was Bhishmadev himself, and 2 was Sanjaya in the palace of Dhritarashtra. And he was relaying this message to Dhritarashtra in real time, not like our television, which is always delayed. So he says, "Oh Dhritarashtra, we have just heard a voice from the sky. It seems Bhishmadev is soon going to wrap up his manifest pastimes." And both Sanjaya and Dhritarashtra begin weeping. So Bhishmadev, after he hears this Akashvani, he smiles and he's looking at Arjuna. Arjuna places Shikhandi forward. Bhishmadev puts his weapons down, and Arjuna begins shooting arrows from behind, one after another, one after another. So many arrows that Bhishmadev's body is filled with arrows. Vyasadeva describes that there was no space in the body of Bhishmadev to even place 2 fingers back to back. His body was filled with so many arrows. And when he was attacked by so many arrows in such manner, Bhishmadev falls off his chariot. Duryodhana, Dushasana, everyone starts weeping. They say, "Oh, this is the day we dreaded the most. We didn't want to see the passing away of Bhishmadev. He lived all his life for us. He never asked us for anything. He never lived for himself." Duryodhana was slapping his head. He said, "How much Bhishmadev tried to explain me, how much he tried to teach me. Because of my foolishness today, see, he's about to give up his body." Bhishmadev was filled with so many arrows. And because it is said that his body was filled with arrows and the arrows had gone through his body, so his body never touched the ground. So Bhishmadev, now everyone stops the battle, and now they're approaching Bhishmadev. It is described Bhishmadev's head was hanging and he requested, please get me a pillow. Everyone is running around to get soft pillows for Bhishmadev. But Bhishmadev says, no, I don't want this. Get me real pillows that a true Kshatriya deserves. And he calls Arjuna. Call the one whose arrows have struck my body and ask him to arrange a pillow for me. To which Arjuna, it is described, he is weeping and he strings arrows in his bow and he makes a pillow with arrows for Bhishmadev. And Bhishmadev says, oh dear Arjuna, oh my dear Arjuna, I am very thirsty. Can you please get me water? And Arjuna calls upon the Ganges by shooting the arrows and quenches and purifies Bhishmadev. So such great Kshatriyas don't, ordinary luxury, material luxury doesn't give them pleasure. What gives them pleasure is the arrows and the blood in the battle. This is a true Kshatriya, the one who can fight the enemy with their bare chest, and they don't care to die because they very well know that even if they die in the battlefield, they anyways get an auspicious destination in the planet of Surya. So Bhishmadev is very happy to have received all these arrows. But it is a very painful sight to see, as we all can see in this image. So a lot of things happen. Everyone cries, everyone comes, sees Bhishmadev. Once everything is done and dusted, Karna approaches Bhishmadev. And Karna says, oh dear Bhishmadev, kindly forgive me for all the harsh words that I have spoken to you. Please forgive me for all my sins. Please forgive me for all my offenses. So what if there is no one during this time to support you? I, the son of Radhe, promise to be by your side while you're departing. O supreme epitome, O supreme personification of bhakti, I will be by your side. Kindly forgive me. O Bhishmadev, you are the exemplary character. You are a great Mahajan. You never associated with women. You never betrayed your lineage. If it is ever possible, O Bhishmadev, kindly forgive me. And Karna, this Karna offers his life at your lotus feet. Why does it so happen that while a great soul is living amongst us, we don't realize his value, and only when it is the time for his departure to arrive that we realize, oh, we made such a grave mistake. We should have spent more time with such souls. We should have associated more with such people. This is what Karna is teaching all of us. That we should not just lament and repent, have regrets that we didn't associate with such great souls. In fact, we should take advantage while all these souls are still present in the planet to take the full advantage of taking their association. So Yudhishthir Maharaj, who is so disturbed, who is so despondent on the battle, and Krishna, who is witnessing all this, he requests Bhishmadev to kindly pacify Yudhishthir Maharaj. So, on the request of Krishna, Bhishmadev speaks his concluding instructions to Yudhishthir Maharaj, and Yudhishthir Maharaj is pacified. This is almost 2 chapters in the Mahabharata by Vyasadeva. So, it is said that it is not that Krishna couldn't convince Yudhishthir Maharaj, Krishna could very well convince Yudhishthir Maharaj, but he wanted to give the credit to Bhishma Dev. Krishna is always like this. Even in the Ramayana, who ultimately is remembered, whose glories are sung more than Lord Ram, it is Hanuman. So this is what happens. Lord, in the background, it is said, Raso Hamapsu Kaunteya. I am the unseen string in those in the necklace filled with pearls. I am unseen. I am the Karta. I am the one who's doing all these activities, but because my devotees are so pleasing and so dear to me, I give them credit. So here Bhishma Dev is given credit. Sutre Manigana Iva. So Bhishma Dev now looks at the beautiful form of Krishna, keeping his eyes stuck on this beautiful form, with his tongue chanting the names of Krishna. It is said that it is from Bhishma Dev's lotus lips that the Vishnu Sahasranam came out. So remembering this form of the Lord, with the chariot wheel above his head, with the hair flowing in the wind, with face ashened by the dust of the hooves of the horses, and his face decorated with beads of perspiration, and his pitambari dhoti, his uttariya fallen. Bhishmadev is drinking this form of the Lord. And it is described in Bhagavatam, this form of the Lord is like a cloud, a freshly risen rain cloud, where the sweat drops are like mist and rain, and the Pitambari dhoti is like lightning. So Bhishma Dev, while remembering this form and Krishna charging towards him in this mood, in the assembly of all the great Vaishnavas, Bhishma Dev leaves the world. How glorious! When the Acharyas were, when all the disciples of Prabhupada were contemplating on this great pastime, they all gave their commentary that actually Srila Prabhupada is not different from Bhishma Dev. He could have been very comfortable by being in Radha Damodar temple in India. But just like Bhishma Dev wanted to increase Krishna's glory and increase his satisfaction by going to the opposite end, similarly, Srila Prabhupada decided to go to the opposite end of the world, to give pleasure to Krishna. Every heart attack, every struggle was like arrows piercing his body. Srila Prabhupada never gave up. It is said towards the end, when even he was on the deathbed of arrows, how much struggle Prabhupada took for all of us. It is said even on his departing bed, with the dictaphone of Jayadvaita Maharaj close to his mouth, just like Bhishma Dev was instructing Yudhishthir Maharaj on the final concluding instructions, Srila Prabhupada continued to speak purports of his Bhaktivedanta purports of the Bhagavatam. That Bhagavatam, which we have today, are actually the words that Srila Prabhupada spoke on his deathbed. Actually, Kurukshetra is non-different from Krishna Balaram temple. Srila Prabhupada has done so much for all of us. He has given his life. Even if we surrender our lives 1,000,000 times onto the lotus feet of Prabhupada in 1,000,000 words, still we can never clear our debt. Where would we have been if Srila Prabhupada didn't come? Srila Jayapataka Swami Maharaj writes a historical song. Jadi Prabhupada na hoito, tabe ki hoito, e jivana baita ki se. How would this life have passed if Prabhupada didn't come to us? We are so indebted to Prabhupada. So as the followers of Srila Prabhupada, it is our responsibility, it is our duty to take shelter of his teachings. This is the minimum that we can do, the least that we can do, to read his books and continue his legacy. So this is the parallel that was drawn between Bhishma Dev and Srila Prabhupada. So now that we have come at the end of the session 3, I would like to offer my prostrated obeisances unto Bhishma Dev, who led his life full of sacrifices, and he set an example of an exemplary Vaishnava etiquette, who was a personification of all good qualities. Let us all contemplate on the pastimes of Bhishma Dev, and let us all perfect our lives in this manner and go back home, back to Vari. I would like to thank each and every one, and I bow down to each and every one who participated with all of us during these 3 sessions of Bhishma Dev. Thank you so much, everyone. I end the class here. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjay Prabhu. It was fantastic.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Sanjay Prabhu.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. Yeah, your session was so brilliant that I could visualize each and every scene which you were describing before my eyes.
Yeah. This was, so even if anyone can take an iota from this session, that will be a great success. I will